Hey, hello everybody, and welcome to today's workshop. I hope you're all doing super well this weekend. I'm really excited to see you, really excited to be here, really enjoying a nice day where I'm at. Hopefully it's not too freezing where some of you are. I know it's a little bit cold over on the East Coast and in the North still. Hopefully I can send you some of this warm, beautiful California weather to you so that, I know some of you are shorts, t-shirts, and tank tops if it's above 45 degrees, right? Here, that's when our hands fall off and you see Armageddon on the news every single day. But hopefully you're doing well, staying warm, staying comfortable on this beautiful Sunday. And if you can hear me, I'd love for you to just say yes and say, I can hear you in the comments. Let me know, please. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jason J. Hamilton. I am a Chartered Retirement Planning Counselor and the admin of this group. And every Sunday, we're going to bring you some sort of live workshop, live Q&A, some sort of knowledge building information so that you can get the information you need to retire with confidence. Unfortunately, the world of retirement is so much more complicated than it really needs to be. But for now, it just is what it is. So I know many of you have just spent tons of time, hundreds of hours, thousands of hours, and now you have this group here to ask questions to. So I really hope you take advantage of it because there's new things we're talking about every single day. And from what I'm seeing here, looks like you can hear me. I appreciate that. All right. Craig, how's it going? Melba, how you doing? Michelle, Kathy, Steve, Terold, Debbie, Tom, Julie. Oh, Julie Hamilton. I wonder if we're related somewhere. It's a great last name you have there. Dick, how you doing? 20 more inches of snow last week. It would be great if I wanted to go snowboarding. I would appreciate that. A lot of nice fresh powder, but for the day-to-day, no thank you. Alex, is snow in Colorado. Colorado is beautiful. I have some family members going to visit Red Rock, the amphitheater, in the next few weeks here. So I'm really excited for them to see that. I got to see it last year. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. Hey, Leanne, great to see you as well. So today, guys, I've seen a couple comments this week about different things, right? And so sometimes, I have things that I really want to talk about I think are important, but then other times there are things that I just see you asking a lot of questions about here on the page and in the group. And I want to do my best, right, to help you out because at the end of the day, like what I want for you from being here and spending time and learning is for you to be in a better position and for you to avoid really any big mistakes, right? So I'm going to talk to you today about a couple things that I've been seeing a lot of discussion around in the group and a lot of requests for answers. And we're going to talk about fiduciaries, and we're specifically going to talk about fake fiduciaries, right? So this whole term fiduciary has gotten a lot of traction, especially inside this group. You guys know you're smart, you've been paying attention, and you're asking this question, are you a fiduciary, right? But then in that same conversation that you're asking that, right, they say yes, this whoever this advisor may be that you're working with, and in the same conversation, I'm hearing comments that they saying, hey, put 75% of your money in this fixed index annuity because it's the best thing for you to do. Not good, guys. Not good. Not good, not good, okay? That is not a fiduciary, okay? And I'm going to explain to you the difference, okay? And I'm not saying that in general people aren't trying to do what's in your best interest, but if they're telling you to put 75 or 100% of your retirement assets into a fixed income product without some really good reasoning behind it, okay? I never want to say anything is 100% anything, but if they better have some really good reasoning behind that while they're doing that beyond just generating themselves commissions, there's a really good chance that that's probably not the right move, right? And that's why the financial industry is one of the most messed up industries with some of the nicest people, okay? So what I mean by that is most people that are in this industry that haven't really worked outside of like the big companies, because the big companies are all broker dealers, right? They're all insurance salespeople, annuity salespeople. That's their primary business, or big commissions on your retirement assets. Things like that. There are very, very few, if not none, that are strictly fee only where they work with you for a fee, right? So they're all going to have some sort of conflict of interest involved there. But in general, these folks don't really know any better, okay? So I'm not going to fault anybody working for these type of companies. They are told, trained to sell a product. Most of the time, they have no idea what they're doing. They're just told to sell it, and they know how to make it sound really good and to sit down with you. And the title financial advisor is not regulated at this point. And so at the end of the day, you are left to defend for yourself, right? And so that's why, I love you being in this group and I can help you with that. So I'm going to talk about that. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about long-term care. I'm going to give you some really good information and then some things to think about to make sure, that long-term care is right for you, right? At the end of the day, we really have to do an analysis, but I'm going to give you some good questions for that. So let's just jump right in to today's training and get going here, because I know that's what you're here for. Not here to see my ugly face looking at you. You want to get some good info. So let's talk about that real quick, and let's jump in. So let me share my screen here with you. Let's pull this up. Okay, hopefully you can see me. And if anything goes out, guys, please let me know. If you can't hear me at all, please let me know. I would love to make sure that I don't cut out. Okay, so I'm going to jump in to this particular training. I'm going to show you a couple tools and some really good questions that you could ask to best protect yourself from unscrupulous, as they say, advisors. So this, again, if you've been in this group a while, I've done a training like this before. You can search this group. I go in a lot more depth about this particular training or these slides in another training. I want to cover them real quick. And what I recommend for you is you actually just get out a pen and paper and just get ready to write down, because some of these questions, I'm going to give you 5 questions on really how to find the wolves in sheep's clothing, people that are saying they are fiduciaries, but in reality they're just brokers or salespeople. And I'm going to give you some information on how to essentially uncover what you're really dealing with, right? And so this training is part of a larger training that I've done before, but the first slide here is forget financial advisors, right? Obviously, you guys know that I am an advisor, but what I mean by that is not all advisors, of course, okay? So the challenges with this industry is it has a lot of problems. Okay, there's a lot of problems, and it's just really not really set up for people to do the right thing very easily, okay? The majority of this industry, 90% plus, is working for a broker-dealer, okay? So what that means is they sell products for a commission, okay? They don't only provide advice strictly, they're selling products and doing things like that, okay? So 90% of advisors you're out there looking for are going to have some sort of big conflict of interest. If you were to do a Google search on the Department of Labor fiduciary rule that was struck down in 2016, I believe, 2016, 2017, that was struck down, and the amount of money that went into lobbying to get that rule struck down, the majority was from big, insurance companies and broker dealers that you probably have heard of before. I'm not going to mention any names here. You could do a Google search. But the reason why they struck that down is because they would have to do what's in your best interest before their own, okay? And if you look at the trend of annuity sales, for example, there was a massive drop-off once they found out this fiduciary rule was coming in the industry. The annuity sales are back on the rise. And again, I'm not saying all annuities are bad, but the majority are oversold to people who don't really have a good understanding because they are complicated products. I do think some of them have a fit in certain areas, so don't get me wrong. But me being a fee-only independent fiduciary advisor, I could still connect you to a resource that can get you an annuity. And the great thing about it is we don't deal with people working on commission, right? So it doesn't, just because somebody says, well, we like to, implement all the products, not send somebody anywhere else. Well, what that means is they're trying to get you on two ends, right? A commission and then also a fee probably on your assets somewhere. So this is something really important for you to look into and get your pen and paper. I'm telling you. If you want to go back and watch this, that's fine, but I'm going to give you the questions you could ask. If you ask these questions, you're going to be in a much better place than you wouldn't. And of course, I cannot guarantee anything 100%, okay? So let's talk about that. Over 90% of people calling themselves financial advisor are simply salespeople. Full disclosure, as I said, I'm a financial planner and investment advisor, but I am also fiduciary, which means I am legally bound to do what's in the best interest of my clients first. And I'm going to show you something very important on how you can get this to really work in your best interest for you, this information, okay? So first I want to talk about what is a fiduciary financial planner, and it's simply one that is legally required to act in your best interest first, okay? I'm going to talk to you about brokers. I'm going to talk to you about hybrid advisors, which do brokerage work and then financial work, and the suitability versus fiduciary differences, okay? So in the financial world, there is a lot of smoke and mirrors that a potential investor such as yourself has to get through to find what we call a real advisor, okay? If you look up the Society of Real Advisors, what that is a group of fiduciary advisors that are committed to doing what their client's best interest, and they literally just accept a fee for their advice. No product sales, no anything like that, okay? So since the title financial advisor is not regulated, it can be very difficult to cut through the smoke and mirrors. So I'm going to help you do that today. Okay? And the reason why I am so passionate about this is, if you don't know, if you haven't heard me talk about this before, if you're newer to the group, my parents were completely ripped off by an insurance agent posing as a financial advisor, and I am determined to make an impact by helping people avoid these traps, okay, of these salespeople. And this is one of the biggest reasons why I chose to go into this profession, and why since day one, I have never accepted a commission and I have committed to a fiduciary standard. Okay, so let's talk about that. A good financial advisor, I truly believe, is one of the best things you can invest in, especially around this time of retirement. There's so much to get right that you could spend the thousands of hours figuring it out yourself, but why not work with somebody who's worked with hundreds of thousands of clients and can help you with the step-by-step process and save you all the time and headache and the opportunity to miss something, right? It's a bigger concern that you miss something than that you get most of it right. So when you do that, what I want to make sure you're dealing with is someone that is a actual fiduciary. Okay, so let me explain. Oops, let me go back one. So before I jump into that, whoa, I got technical things going on here. Okay, so before I jump into that, you may ask yourself, aren't all financial professionals required to act in my best interest? The answer is absolutely not, okay? They are not required to. It'd be nice if they did, and like I said, there's plenty of nice people. Almost everybody I meet in this industry is actually like a really, really nice person. But the problem is they have companies that they are beholden to before they are beholden to you. So if somebody has a Series 7 license, right, or they work for a broker-dealer, in their agreement with their broker-dealer, they're actually legally required to work in their broker-dealer's best interest before your own. So that means they have to sell you a product before, they have to do it in your best interest. I mean, that's really what it is. So if you never heard of this term fiduciary and you're currently working with an advisor, I would say get ready to be blown away, maybe, right? If you go to talk to them and ask some of these questions, you might find some things that really surprise you, and you can take my word for it, or you can do your own research, right? I recommend you do your own research to check anything that I'm saying here and back it up, and don't just follow exactly what I say, but hey, you know what, verify, and that's fine. But what I'm going to tell you is, to make this very simple, there are two types of advisors, okay? At the end of the day, when you get down to the nitty gritty, there are brokers and there are fiduciaries. And that's really what it comes down to, okay? And there's two different standards of care when it comes to dealing with clients that are going to really impact you and protecting yourself and your long-term success at the end of the day. But brokers work under the suitability standard, okay? And fiduciaries work under the fiduciary standard. So the fiduciary standard means that the advisor must act in their client's best interest when providing any advice. And this is actually a legal requirement, okay? Other professions, lawyers, doctors, CPAs, this is built in to their profession. Currently, it is not built into the financial profession, and it really needs to be. The problem is there will be billions of dollars lost from broker-dealers because all these commissions that are coming from you, the customer, will no longer be getting paid. And it will probably destroy some of the biggest institutions you've ever heard if they fully implement this, right? It's going to cost them a lot of money, that's for sure. So, but there's a big difference there when it's your best interest versus what I'm going to show you now. So this is in stark contrast to the so-called suitability standard that many commission-based agents and brokers use. So what all this really requires is that they offer you a suitable product or suitable advice to their clients, not necessarily the best advice. Okay, so what does this mean? Someone can sell you a cash value insurance policy or a whole life policy as an investment vehicle for your retirement, just like they could recommend that you go into some low-cost index funds or ETFs. Technically, it's suitable, right? So if you were to try to have a lawsuit against these people, most likely, if you have a low risk tolerance, you wouldn't win. And if you look at the history of lawsuits against people recommending horrible products, it has not gone very well into the client's favor. It's because there's always this escape hatch called suitability. And suitability is not the same as best interest. Okay, it's a big, very clear line that this industry really tries to blur and hide and confuse you, the investor, when it comes to getting the help that you need. Okay, so how do you know if the product your broker recommends is the best one for you? I'm going to talk about that. So at the end of the day, you don't, and unless you've done all your research and you really understand every possible product out there and all the different selections that are available, you really don't know. And that's the unfortunate bottom line is what it is. So, about 90% of financial advisors in America are brokers, regardless of the title on their business card, right? That just is what it is. They are paid a fee or commission for selling a product, and they're actually obligated legally to act in the best interest of their broker-dealer before yours, okay? So let me ask you a question. Does this sound like there is a serious conflict of interest, okay? Please let me know in the comments if you think this sounds like a conflict of interest. I would love to hear from you. Okay, so in my opinion, if you say yes, if you agree, I would say you are right that there is. And this is really a really big problem, especially for folks going into retirement, because what if you don't have the time left that many people have if they make a mistake in their 20s and 30s, right? Once you're in your 60s, there's not 20 or 30 years or 40 years to make up for it. You really have to get this right the first time. So this is very important to make sure that you're getting this information and you're implementing it, okay? So out of about the 300,000 financial advisors, I think there's like 340 or 350. This is a little bit older of a training I have. But in the United States, only about 31,000 or approximately 10% are registered investment advisors. Okay, so that's what my firm, Keep It Simple Financial Planning, is. So these are also known as RIAs or independent advisors. Okay, so this sounds great, right? Just go find a registered investment advisor or an RIA. It's a better start. It's definitely a better start than going straight to a broker-dealer. But as I'm going to show you here, there's still some things you need to be aware of, okay? So there's another sneaky trick of the financial industry, and it is called a dually registered advisor, okay? So what does that mean? So as many as 26,000 of these 31,000 RIAs operate in this gray area, and they have one foot in both camps. So they're one foot in the fiduciary, one foot in the suitability, right? Because they're broker-dealers that back them up. So out of this, there's really only 5,000 or so, maybe a little bit more now, of the 310,000 financial advisors that are pure fiduciaries that operate strictly on a fee-only basis, okay? So what the heck, it's only about 1.6%. It might be about 2% now, but this is the statistics I got when I made this. This is about last year sometime. But that is some extremely challenging position that as an investor and as somebody looking to plan for retirement is in, because you have to find one of the 2%, of advisors that are available out there to help you, right? And that's just really tough to do. And some of you live in rural areas, and that's just not reasonable, okay, to find someone locally there at the end of the day. So what I want you to know is that these duly registered advisors may have good intentions, and they can definitely tell you and look you right in the eye and say, yes, I'm a fiduciary. But the problem is they get caught between two worlds, trying to be honorable while also having to make some compromises, okay? So the question is, why would you ever choose somebody who does not have to act in your best interest over one that does, right? And in my opinion, you shouldn't. You should not choose that. You should not substitute, and you should not sacrifice and take anything short of the best for when it comes to your financial situation. So here's the problem. The vast majority of investment advisors are registered as both fiduciaries and brokers. Okay, so how do you find out if you're dealing with a true fiduciary who legally has to put your best interest first and not a broker who only has to do what that he or she feels is suitable? Well, I'm going to give you the exact questions you should ask, and this is going to really help you out to figure out if you're dealing with somebody who is required to work in your best interest or somebody who just has to kind of, sort of, sometimes, okay? So number one, okay, write this down. Are you a registered investment advisor? Okay, that is a big question. Okay, so this is like the number one qualifying questions. If they're not an RIA, highly recommend that you find somewhere else, because even right now, the big broker dealers are seeing this trend coming, and a lot of them are exiting this space. They're not changing their sales contest yet. They're not changing their sales tactics yet, but they're realizing that consumers like you are smartening up and you're getting this sort of information. So you are going to find folks that are RIAs, but still have some problems. Okay, I'm going to walk you through that in just a second. So, but if the answer is no, this advisor is a broker. So my recommendation is that you smile and say goodbye. But if the answer is a yes, then he or she is required by law to be a fiduciary. But you still need to figure out if this fiduciary is wearing one hat or two. Okay, so if they're only in the fiduciary space, or if they have a combination of fiduciary and suitability requirements. Okay. So the second question you could ask is, are you or your firm affiliated with a broker-dealer? So you can get an RA or registered investment advisor that is affiliated with a broker-dealer. And this is where that two hats comes in. They have their foot in two different pools. So if the answer is yes, then you're dealing with somebody who can act as a broker and usually has an incentive to steer you to specific investments, okay? Because, and even I posted an article earlier this week about this. Fidelity is getting sued because they have certain investments that they've been steering clients to inside 401ks. And I've seen this with clients that I have that came from Fidelity that are getting steered to investments that just really aren't the best. I've seen money market funds that have about a 1% fee, right? When you're only going to get 1% on that same fund. It just makes zero sense to do that to somebody. And what that tells me is, and they want to put 40% of their portfolio in that, that's a conflict of interest. And these folks are generating bigger commissions and bigger bonuses because they're steering you to specific investments, right? And so I'm not saying you have to go zero cost or whatever it may be, but you can build a wonderful portfolio out of a set of index ETFs or index funds that has 0.05 cost or 0.1 cost all in, no more than 0.5% all in, and have a wonderful portfolio that's going to perform as good or better than any of these fancy, high expense funds. Not necessary, right? But there is an incentive if you are affiliated with a broker-dealer to get kickbacks for things that you recommend. And so this is where that problem comes in of dealing with somebody that's really working in your best interest or somebody that has to sometimes, but then the other times that they don't, okay? Okay, and then number 3, does your firm offer proprietary mutual funds or separately managed accounts? So what that means is, do they offer funds that are in their own best interest, right? So again, I hesitate to mention any specific names, but you can imagine any of the big companies, they have their own proprietary funds that it could even be just a simple S&P 500 index, and it's going to be 1 or 1.5%. We see it all the time. The big problem we see too is with teachers, right? Teachers with 403Bs or in hospitals, things like that. If you have a 403B and it's not an ERISA plan, especially in the school system, I see this over and over and over and over. If you are a teacher, go on Twitter, search for some of these folks. There's some advisors out there that are really upset because they work strictly with teachers, because teachers in general are getting the worst of the worst because they're getting these proprietary funds, they're getting very expensive annuities, they're getting very expensive stuff that's just not good, okay? So ask this question: does your firm offer proprietary mutual funds or separately managed accounts? The answer should be emphatic no. Okay, if they do, okay, then I would say watch your wallet like a hawk. It probably means they're looking to generate additional revenues by steering you into these products that are highly profitable for them, but probably not for you. Okay, and what I see a lot of the time is that there are a lot of hidden fees. Okay, so if you're looking into getting some mutual funds, for example, have you heard of something called a 12B1 fee, right? You may not have heard of this fee. What it is essentially an underlying fee of the fund that is a commission that goes back to doing kickbacks for the company or for the broker that sells it to you. Kind of hard to find on your statements. Something else to look at is look at your expense ratios, right? Pull up your most recent account statement and look at your expense ratios. And if your statements say that your expense ratios are like 1% or higher on just the fund, I'm not talking about the amount to manage your account, because usually there's another asset management fee built in on top of that. But is it just the fund fee 1% or higher? And if that's the case, you really, really want to dig in and find out, are you getting advice in your best interest? Because it's probably not the case, all right? So question number 4, do you or your firm receive any third-party compensation for recommending particular investments, okay? This is another great question to ask. If you ask this, I would say this might be the ultimate question, because you need to know that your advisor has no incentive to recommend products that will shower him or her with commissions, kickbacks, consulting fees, trips, or other goodies. As if you knew how bad this culture is in these broker-dealers, if you knew how bad, and I'm not saying all companies, okay? I'm not saying all. There's some good companies out there. But the majority are still highly, highly sales-driven organizations. Their output is not how many people's lives that they've changed. It's not how much money they save people in the long term by helping them get their costs and their expenses for their investments or their taxes lowered in order. No, it is how much product they've sold and how many people have bought these typically insurance products or expensive mutual funds, and that's how they measure success. It is broken. The industry probably needs to crash down. We're not there yet, but I'll tell you right now, there is a big group of advisors that are very upset about this, thousands of them, that are very upset about this and are really pushing this fiduciary standard, okay? And that's what I back up because I just think it's as clean as you can be. And after what happened to my parents, I just refuse to be in that position where I have to have a conflict of interest, even though I know personally I do the right thing. But at the end of the day, I want you to know that as a 100% no questions asked type of situation. So you need to ask this type of question, okay? And then the next question I think you should ask is, what financial planning services do you offer beyond just investment strategy and portfolio management? Folks, if all your advisor is doing portfolio management, honestly, they are probably, and they're charging you 1%, you're probably getting ripped off, to be honest with you, if that's all they're doing. If you're going in once a year and all they're doing is manage your portfolio, if they're selling you on this garbage, their investments are the best investments in the world, and they're so fancy and they know all these secret things. There's no secrets anymore in this industry, guys. It's the cat is out of the bag, and you as an investor, maybe you don't feel comfortable, so it'd be good to get some help, right, with managing your investments, because when you're rebalancing, especially in taxable accounts, there are things like tax loss harvesting and rebalancing accordingly to make sure that you are not activating too many taxes at the wrong time. But in reality, this is not the type of service that if you were investing, say, $1 million with somebody, that they should charge you $10,000 a year for, okay? You should be getting additional services that are going into deep, deep retirement planning, tax planning, and other sorts of areas that really can help them earn their value, okay? So maybe at this point, investment help is all you need, so depending on your stage of life. But as you grow older, and most folks here are getting closer to retirement, so they might be a little bit more wealthy, with various holdings to manage, things can become more complex financially. So for example, you may need to deal with saving for for your child's college education, retirement planning, handling vested stock options, or estate planning. So these are all different things that if all you're getting is investment management, you're missing out. Okay, there's some really good advisors out there, and whether you want to choose to work with me at some point or you work with somebody else, I want you to have the right info so that you are getting to a good position and you're not getting ripped off and you're at least avoiding, something, and you're getting a lot more than just investment management, guys, because investment management, again, it can be done basically by algorithm at this point, by computers, right? It really can be done better than humans. So I'm not saying there isn't a science to it and an art to it, because I think there is. And I think spending time to help you design a portfolio and get your risk tolerance right, especially if you're retiring, creating an income portfolio, there's a lot that goes into that. But if that's all they're doing, you're probably overpaying, okay? So that's what I have for you on that subject. I'm going to check in on questions because then I want to talk about long-term care. So let me take some questions here and go back really quickly here to this. And let's see. Okay, let's see what kind of questions we have here. Let's see. If you have questions, go ahead and drop them in, guys. Okay. So, got this question here. Do I know anything about AXA? Yes, AXA is typically an annuity sales company. They do sell mutual funds, usually very expensive, and that is one of the type of companies I'm talking about. That is a broker dealer, and probably would recommend finding something else. And not saying they're all bad. I'm just saying you're probably paying more than you need to. Okay. So let me see how I can get this thing out of here now. Oh, let's try that. Okay, there we go. That's cool. Okay, so let's see this question here. All right, so remember in the school system where at the state allows us to choose from 6 companies. So it's a little bit confused, okay, but I think I understand. So when these folks come to schools, right? Most of the time, you're going to get 6 or 20 different companies coming in that are going to offer for you to buy their products or work with them, because they don't usually just pick one. And this is where you're most susceptible to getting completely, and excuse my language, screwed over, okay? We see this all the time where these folks are putting teachers into plans that have like 2 or 3% annual fees inside these investments, and they're annuities, so they're only going to grow at like 2 to 4%. So essentially you're making no money. And then they have surrender charges for like 6 to 10 years, where if you want to get out of that or change to a different investment, you have to wait 6 to 10 years, or else you're going to have to pay a commission, right? And this is the type of stuff that's going on in our schools that, man, I wish I had a bigger reach and a bigger influence in the school system, because the teachers are just getting the people that are teaching and growing our next generation are the ones that are getting treated so horribly by the financial industry that it just makes me sick to my stomach. It really does. It's really, really bad. So learn, if you're a teacher, learn about what's inside your investment options, okay? I would love to help you out. If you're a teacher and you want me to look over investment options, send them to me. I'm happy to take a look for you and give you a look. Most of the time, for teachers, you're probably going to be looking to invest outside of your 403B plan, because your 403B is going to be so horrible. So if you get a match, you're probably going to want to get that match inside there. But then once you get done with that, you're going to be looking at an IRA if you qualify, or a Roth IRA if you qualify. Something like that's going to be probably more beneficial, because that's going to give you the open market of options versus the limited thing that's inside your 403 plan as a teacher. So this is something that I would definitely recommend researching. Again, if any of you in here are teachers, you want me to look at your investments, I'm happy to do it for you and give you my thoughts, okay? Let's see what other questions we have. I can pull these up before I get into long-term care. Hey, Ava, how you doing? Great to see you. Michelle said, what about Valic? Yeah, same thing. Same thing as like AXA. It's that type of company. Yeah, Vanguard. I'm a big fan of Vanguard. You know, I'm biased. I love the founder, or not founder, but one of the early people, Jack Bogle. His philosophy changed everything with this industry, and it's helped out the average investor like no other person has ever helped them out with index funds, introducing that back in the, I think, 70s or early 80s. Let's see. Sherry says, this is the very reason I did not have a financial advisor in my younger years. Trust. Thank you, right? Exactly, okay? So, we have this group here. I'm actually going to be starting one soon for younger people. So if you have younger family members that are going to be interested in getting financial guidance early and are actually interested, because some people just aren't, right? If you're in your 20s and 30s, some young folks just don't care. They don't think about the future. But I know there is a subset. And I have about 20% of my clients are in their 30s and 20s that I help, and they really want to get their future plan right. And it's mostly folks like me that saw their parents get screwed over or saw something happen back in the 2007 crash or maybe early 2000 tech crash. And so this type of help is available for young people. And if you have a younger family member that's looking for an advisor, let me know. I can try to figure out what sort of niche they're in and try to pair them up to somebody that I know that can probably help them out. Okay, so but that's a great question. Let's see. Okay, there's a question about long-term care. We're going to get into that in a second. And then Alex says, I work for public schools. We only have VALIC for a 403B. And this is what I'm saying, right? So sometimes they have some decent investment options, but a lot of times you're going to get sold something, okay? So it's not what you choose, but you have a salesman that comes to your school, gives a financial literacy presentation, and in reality, all they're trying to do is sell you their garbage products, okay? And they scare you and make you think that you need guaranteed everything on what you're buying, so to put all your money in annuity at 30 years old, and it's just horrible. It's just not good, okay? So that is Alex's question. And then let's see here. This is another good one. Here's Michelle. Michelle says, I'm stuck in my investment, like he says, for 6 years now, right? So this is what I'm talking about, right? This is what I'm talking about, and this is what I want you to avoid. Okay, some of you think that paying for advice is a cost. In reality, guys, most likely it's going to be an investment for you. So that's why I recommend that you do pay for advice. Again, you don't have to use me. I'm just trying to get you to find somebody that meets this standard, because it really is the highest standard that's available out there right now. At the end of the day, you have some legal repercussions. Okay, so that is those questions. I want to show you one more thing before I get into that. Kayleen asked, how much do I charge to help the younger generation? For most of those folks, we do what's called like a monthly retainer. Essentially, they just pay like a monthly, like a gym membership type fee, and it kind of depends on their income and complexity. But generally, it's around $200 a month or something like that. And I'll work with them and get everything in order for them and help them really set themselves up for the future. That's normally what I do. Okay, so I'm here to actually serve you. I'm not here to talk about services at this point. So I want to show you something else, guys, that I think can be really, really helpful for you. Okay. So if your advisor if your, oh, I need to switch my screen. Shoot. If your advisor is saying that they are a fiduciary, okay, bring this up. I'm going to drop this link here in the comments so you can pull this up, okay? I have this for you. This is going to help you get the wolves in sheep's clothing exposed, okay? I don't know if it'll let me do it from here, actually. Let's see. Okay. So what this is called, that I'm going to show you right now, is called a fiduciary oath, okay? And this is something you should require your investment advisor or financial advisor to sign, okay? If you go to my website, I have this here. You can click on this, and I have mine here signed for anybody to get at any time, okay? Taking a second to come up, but it's here. Okay, so mine is signed here on the website, all right? So pull this up, okay? Bring this into your quote-unquote fiduciary's office. If they are saying that they are really a fiduciary, oops, let me take off my own name here real quick. If they are saying they're a fiduciary, a real one, they should have no problem signing this, okay? And here's what it says, putting your best interest first. This is from the fiduciarystandard.org, okay? I believe in placing your best interest first. Therefore, I'm proud to commit to the following 5 fiduciary principles. I will always put your best interest first. I will act with prudence, that is with the skill, care, diligence, and good judgment of a professional. I will not mislead you. I will not provide conspicuous, full, and fair disclosure of all important facts. I will avoid conflicts of interest, and I will fully disclose and fairly manage it in your favor any unavoidable conflicts. So they should be able to sign this and date this. I'm willing to do this for any client. Multiple networks that I'm a part of require us to sign this, okay? So this is something that I put the link to this in the comments. If you have an advisor right now and they say they're a fiduciary or someone you're looking to go speak to, print this out, bring it to them, ask them to sign it. They should sign it without hesitation. If they hesitate, you got a problem, okay? So that's the last thing I wanted to share with you on fiduciary. Now I want to shift gears here and I want to jump into long-term care insurance, okay? So we're going to talk about this. And I think this is very, very important for you folks to understand. So let's jump in here and talk about this, okay? So, and I should have mentioned this whole presentation, okay? So everything I provide you is as-is information. There's no tax, legal, accounting, investment advice here. Please don't take any of this as advice for your specific situation. And please then reach out and get something of advice that with the signed contract. This is just for informational purposes. This is not advice for you, okay? So I have to say that. All right, so in its simplest terms, like what is long-term care insurance? So what is it? It's a way to directly pay for long-term care, and you'll see me shorten, long-term care is LTC or LTCI is long-term care insurance. And so in its simplest terms, long-term care insurance is a way to directly pay for long-term care expenses at the same time transferring the uncertain risk to an insurance company. Okay, so by purchasing insurance policy, and this is what insurance really should be used for, by the way, is transferring risk. That's essentially what you're doing when you're purchasing a long-term care insurance policy. You're paying an ongoing annual fee, and that if someday you need long-term care insurance, you will stop paying that fee and you'll switch over to the insurance covering your care. Okay, so most people purchase a long-term care insurance policy when they are young and healthy, with the expectation that when they need care later in life, the benefits will be available to help pay for it. Most people purchase between 50 and 63. That's sort of the average. Once you get past 65 and 70, it starts going up quite a bit in cost, obviously, because it's higher risk. But the average people purchase their long-term care insurance policy is 57. So that's what the data that I found. So that is about the average age. So if you're plus or minus that, you might want to consider it. But long-term care insurance usually either pays for the actual expenses incurred, so usually with a daily dollar cap, or it pays the insured a daily benefit amount regardless of the actual expenses occurred. So it could just pay that daily amount even if you don't use it, or it could pay for the actual expenses. There's multiple ways to kind of structure these policies, but in either case, there may be a lifetime cap on benefits. Some policies offered a pooled benefit, so for example, $250,000 that you get to use kind of however you want, often with a daily benefit cap. Paying for actual expenses is generally safer for the insured, but a majority of policies seem to be of the daily benefit. So not reimbursing for expenses variety. So why is one method safer than the other? It really has to do with the taxation of benefits. The tax code generally makes benefits that pay directly for long-term care expenses tax-free, very similar to health insurance. So just as we do not want to pay taxes on the benefits when our health insurance provider pays the doctor, we do not pay taxes when our long-term care insurance policy pays their nursing home bill. This makes it easy to determine the taxability of benefits, no taxation, right? So that makes it real easy for you. Okay, so the daily benefit or per diem plan presents a different taxability situation. So here, the taxation of benefits depends on whether those benefits are less than or greater than the tax-free amount set by Congress, okay? So the amount is generally indexed annually for inflation. In 2019, the tax rate benefit is $370 per day. 2018 and 2017 was $360 per day. So this means that any amounts received by the insured up to $370 per day will be non-taxable. Amounts over this normally will be taxable unless the actual expenses exceed that amount. Okay, so here are some questions to ask when evaluating a long-term care insurance policy. What levels of care are covered by the policy? Do you get skilled care, custodial care? Where can I receive benefits under the policy? Is it any licensed facility? Are there certain facilities that you have to choose? These are things you really want to look into and you're planning for properly for the future. Does this policy provide home care benefits? A majority of people start at home care, right, before they move into a facility. That's very, very common. And then at what percent of the daily benefit? Are homemaker services covered, and then how? Because long-term care really comes in when you can't perform your daily required activities, right? So if you can't get dressed, cook for yourself, brush your teeth, there's a lot of things that could be into that. Are these type of services covered? Can personal care be given by the home health aides? Does the policy pay for care in alternative settings such as adult daycare, assisted living, etc.? Because there's a lot of different settings, and you want to ask these questions. All really, really good questions to ask, okay? All right. And then how much will the policy pay per day for home care, assisted living care, adult daycare, Alzheimer's facilities? What is the length of the benefits period you are considering? What are the benefits triggers of this policy? When do benefits start? So there's a lot of questions you want to ask here. What are there waiting periods for home care, cumulative or consecutive? What inflation protection is available, and what benefit triggers? What are the benefit triggers of this policy? I guess I have that question twice. But the benefit trigger could be something like, you have to be in a facility for 90 days, right? That could be one. A big thing to look at is what inflation protection is available. Guys, the cost of care today is going to be a whole lot different than it's going to be in 20 or 30 years. Like if you're 60, you might not need it to 85 or 87. That's 25 years. So if you are getting no inflation increase on your cost of care benefit, that could be a big problem 25 years from now. So that's something you really want to consider when you're looking at these type of policies. Other questions? When do benefits start? Are there waiting periods for home care, cumulative or consecutive? So does it have to be, can it be just like any 90 days that you are getting care, or does it have to be 90 days in a row? So these are type of things you have to look at. Are you allowed to buy more coverage, right? When? How much? What if you wanted to up your coverage? That's something that some policies do offer. Is there a waiver of premium benefit? When does it go into effect? Okay. Is the policy tax qualified? Is there a discount for couples if both buy policies? Is there a joint policy available? The big question is the policy premium within your budget? And when you're looking at a couple situation, if you have to choose, normally the woman is going to outlive the man. So that might make more sense at that time to actually, maybe if you can't afford policies for both, at least buy one for the one that's expected to live longer, because, at the end of the day, the one that has trouble early medically, they might have their spouse to take care of them for a while, right? So, it's something to consider when it comes to purchasing this, like keeping within your budget and making sure that the person in most need has the coverage they need. All right. So a big question is, at the end of the day, is long-term care insurance needed? I think that's one of the biggest questions we get around this group is, do I need it, right? So let's talk about that a little bit. If you are very wealthy or have little in assets, so you're on both sides, one side of the spectrum here, you have a ton of money or not a lot of money, then long-term care insurance is probably not going to be necessary for you. So if you're a very wealthy individual, you have millions of dollars saved for retirement, you'll most likely be able to cover the cost if you did need care. makes sense, right? If your cost in today's dollars is $100,000 a year, and you have $5 million, probably not going to be that big of a deal for you to cover that cost, right? So on the other side of the consideration here is, if you have little assets, long-term care insurance probably doesn't make sense as the cost of coverage is going to be too high, So if you're going to have to spend $5,000 a year and you only have $50,000 saved to pay for this from, well, you only get maximum of 10 years of coverage being able to pay for it. And if you don't use it in 10 years, then you're going to have to expire the policy. Probably not a good idea in that case, right? So these are some of the things you want to think through and work through the numbers on. But if you're in the middle somewhere, this is where it gets more difficult, right? So the cost for a couple that purchase the policy around 60 could be about $4,000 to $6,000 per year or more. So about $2,000 to $3,000 each. That's what I've been seeing lately for like a good quality policy that has, inflation riders, and has just like a good amount of coverage. This is about what I'm seeing. You might be able to get cheaper, but this is what I've been seeing lately. So this is what we're looking at for a cost, okay? So as with any properly used insurance, long-term care is used as a transfer of risk. You would purchase to insure against the cost of care in the future, in the future risk of depleting your assets. But there are some challenges with this, okay? Many companies have underestimated the cost of care, and this has caused unexpected premium increases for policyholders. We're seeing this over and over. A lot of you folks have not had any increases for 15 years, and that's great, but some people have had that, and then out of nowhere, they're getting a 25% increase. They're getting a 75% increase. If you're on fixed income, that can completely disrupt your retirement planning situation because you weren't expecting, a cost to go from $5,000 to $8,000 a year per se. Like that could be your whole vacation budget right there, right? So this is something that is very real and that is happening now. And in all honesty, is something that is a little scary when it comes to considering purchasing this insurance. But, with the cost of full-time care increasing faster than inflation, it may be worth the risk to purchase if you're not 100% sure you can cover the cost of care. So I got some stats here from longtermcare.gov. And these are the national average cost for long-term care in the United States. And this is from 2016, but you can consider it close to this now. So currently, about $68.44 per month for a semi-private room in a nursing home, and $76.98 per month for a private room. Okay, so what is that? $68.44 per month. $68.44 times 12. That's about $82,000 a year. $76.98 times 12, that's $92,376 per year for a private room. This is average across the United States. So if you're in a high cost of living area, like New York, California, it can definitely be higher. And then you're looking at about $36.28 per month for care in an assisted living facility for a one-bedroom unit. Okay, so if you need assisted living, that could definitely be a lot less. And average cost about $20.50 an hour for a health aide, $20 an hour for homemaker services, and $68 per day for services in an adult day health care center. Okay, so this is something to look at and say, hey, can I afford covering this for the average amount of time? So with the average cost of private rooms being $76.98 per month and the average stay being between 2 to 3 years, if you could easily cover about $185,000 to $277,000 for this average stay, about 2 to 3 years for each spouse, then maybe you don't need it, right? That puts it pretty clear that if you can cover that, then you may not really need it, and that's something you may really want to consider. Okay, and then keep in mind there are times where long-term care is needed for 10 to 20 years, and this can be very expensive. My own grandfather had care for 13 years or so before he recently passed away. It's very real that you can need care for that long. Luckily, he was able to do well enough to where he can support himself for that, but if you don't have any insurance in place, or even if you do buy insurance and the average policy only lasting 2 or 3 years, after this, you may have to deplete your assets to do that before Medicaid will kick in. So this can be very, very expensive to cover if you have to do it all on your own, okay? So before we wrap up, I have 3 more questions that I'd like to have you ask yourself. What is the likelihood, given the statistics, your family history, current health, marital status, that nursing home care will be required for more than a short period, okay? So look at your parents, right? At the end of the day, if you're 60 and your parents both passed away in their early 60s and you have a lot of maybe, heart conditions, cancer, things like that in your family, and people pass away very early, Maybe it doesn't make sense for you. But if you have longevity in your family, where most of your families live into 80, 90, or beyond, and actually, you know what? If they're in their 90s or beyond, then it might not make sense to buy. It might make sense to keep that money invested. I'm seeing some funny comments here. That's why I'm laughing. But it might make sense to keep the money invested, and then just to cover it out of your own investments at that point. And then there's also other policies that are hybrid policies that act as life insurance and long-term care built in. So those policies are generally about 2 to 4 times more expensive than a straight up long-term care policy, but then you get the insurance benefit of doing that. So second question for you to ask is, what are your objectives regarding your heirs? Do you want to leave money to them, right? If you want to leave money to your heirs, then you might want to get a policy, because this is going to help you protect against burning through all your assets if you have a policy in place. And then third question is, how affordable is a policy? Can you afford it? Is spending $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a year going to totally destroy your retirement budget? If it is, then you really got to look at the consequences of maybe purchasing or not purchasing. So what I will tell you this is that with my firm, long-term care insurance analysis is part of our retirement planning process. So it's definitely something we do. And if you'd like help deciding if long-term care insurance makes sense for you, or just want to discuss your retirement planning, then you're always welcome to schedule a complimentary chat with me, right? You can go to keepitsimplefinancial.com/talk. Once again, that is keepitsimplefinancial.com/talk. When we schedule this call, it's 100% complimentary, but I'm happy to discuss with you to see if this is something that you may need, okay? So I'm going to go through some comments here before we wrap up and see if there's any questions. Okay, let's see. Yeah, here's a good one. Let's talk about this. If I can bring this over. Is it not showing up? Let's see. Let me go back to my face. Here. I want to look at this comment with you, because I think this is really, really good that Leanne posted. Let's talk about this. Okay, there we go. Okay. So Leanne says, my broker told me after my front load fee, I would hardly be paying anything in fees, right? After listening to you, which I'm thinking it was me, I got on their website and dug around and found one fund charged me 1.5%. And then there are 12B1 fees plus his fee. This is what I'm talking about, guys. This is what I'm talking about. So, Leanne, I'm so happy that I was able to help you figure this out. That makes me really happy, because if you're paying 1.5%, again, it's just not necessary anymore. You can get a very similar fund. There's no magical mutual fund out there that has these hidden things, unless you're looking at what are those things called? Hedge funds. But 99 or close to 100% of the hedge funds don't even beat the S&P 500 index over long periods of time after fees, right? So if you're paying a 1.5% fee on your funds, plus a 12B1 fee, plus his fee, what does that look like for you? Let's say you have, I'm going to use $1 million because the math's easy and I don't have to look silly trying to do it in my head right now. But let's say you had $1 million in there and you're getting charged a 1.5% fee on your funds, okay? That's $15,000 a year right there, just in fund fees, okay? Then you have a 12B1 fee, which is generally about 0.25, another 0.25% to 0.5%. So let's say it's a 0.5% there. That's another $5,000 per year. And then let's say your advisor is charging you 1% to manage your investments. Now you're at 3% of costs just for investment management, and who knows what else that they're doing for you. They may be doing something, they may be doing nothing. But if you're paying $30,000 a year out of your investments, it's really, really hard to keep up with inflation and honestly beat it, because you're just getting hammered in fees. So Leanne, I'm so glad I was able to help you figure that out. That makes me really happy, and that's why I do what I do, to help folks like you. Let's see what other questions we have in here before we wrap up. And then I'm also going to post my link here just so you can see it in case you do want to chat. I'm going to put that in here, down here. Okay, so let's talk about what other comments here, okay? Michelle says, never heard of this. Well, good. I'm learning something new today. Let's see. What is a company we could trust to buy long-term care? Ava, I can't make that recommendation specifically. I do have someone I partner with, if you are a client, that I can partner you with, that I trust them 100% because they don't make commissions. They are all salaried people that can help us sift through this. So I can't make the recommendation here. Steve says going to heaven sounds a lot easier. Yeah, Steve, sure. Heaven sounds great. But we have to deal with reality sometimes. And reality is that we need to plan for this stuff, guys. We have to have a plan to deal with this stuff. That is super, super important. Steve says, again, this has convinced me that I need to buy more lottery tickets. Probably not, Steve. You have a better chance of getting bit by a shark and getting struck by lightning on the same corner twice than you do of winning the lottery. So it's probably not likely, probably not the best idea. And Julie, who could be my long-lost relative, Julie Hamilton, says, shoot me now, I can't afford to live. Julie, please don't think about it like that. What I want you to think about it like is do I have a plan? Am I in good shape that if the worst of the worst were to happen, I would be okay, right? Do I have a plan that if something bad was to happen, that I will not completely be in trouble? And that's what I want to do for you. That's what, when you have a real financial planner that can help you really look at all these different aspects, that's what we can do for you, okay? So that's what I have for you guys today. I don't see any more questions. If you want to chat, keepitsimplefinancial.com/talk. I'd be happy to have a call with you, and we will go from there. Other than that, guys, have a great weekend. I appreciate you watching, and I'll talk to you very, very soon. All right, bye-bye now.